important, or why is it a factor if a couple that's involved in a domestic dispute are still living together?
There's not really one.
Well, isn't it true that part of the reason for making an arrest in a domestic violence case is because if they're living together, you want to prevent violence from reoccurring or continuing?
Yes, ma'am.
So if the couple's not living together anymore, and there's been a period of time since the original incident happened, isn't there less of an urgency to make an arrest?
Yes, ma'am.
And you have another option besides a physical arrest, don't you?
Yes, ma'am.
The paperwork could be submitted to the state attorney's office, couldn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
And a warrant for his arrest could have been issued for Mr. DeHutt's arrest, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And isn't it true that you remember specifically when you gave your IA interviews that you asked Mr. Deane if they lived together, and you remember him saying, yes, they do?
Yes, ma'am.
I understand the report says something different, but didn't you testify that you remember asking him and he said they still live together?
Yes, ma'am.
And was that part of your decision making and whether or not an arrest should be made 3 days later versus putting the paperwork through to the state attorney's office?
Yes, ma'am.
I have nothing further.
I do. Sir, you remember telling me agreeing with me on direct examination, you ordered Mr. Deane to transfer the property to the evidence rather than the jail, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this point about about whether or not the arrest should have been made, given and about the cohabitation issue. You agree with me, sir, that before the arrest was made, and before the charging party was delivered to the arresting officers, you knew that the parties didn't cohabitate, correct?
I didn't, I mean, it's on here, but from what we talked, I thought they lived together, from what he said.
You notarized it.
I did.
Which means you read it, right?
Yeah, I trust Deputy Deane.
Well, certainly, any document that you notarize, I'm sure you're going to read.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, at the time you forwarded the information on to the other deputies for purposes of arrest, you knew they didn't live together, yet you still made the decision to forward the documents on to the deputies and ask them to take DeHutt into custody, correct?
Judge, that's not what he said. He said he didn't remember reading that he remembered the deputy telling him that they did live together.
He just
Simply by suggesting what he thinks the testimony should be is not how you question a witness.
I'm sorry, I heard him say that they did live together.
Yeah. Let me just, I'm
So
not going to argue
question
with
something different?
I'll try. You agree with me that any document that you notarize, you read before you notarize it, right?
I do read them, sir.
Okay, so you read this one, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you knew before you forwarded this information on to the arresting officers that they didn't live together, right?
I notarized it, so.
So you knew they didn't live together, right?
I did, like I said, from our conversation, I thought they lived together.
Well, that document that you notarized and you read before you notarized demonstrates that.
So this is,
Very well. And despite that, you still made a decision to have the arresting officers go after DeHutt and take him into custody, correct?
yes, sir.
Now, just because parties don't cohabitate doesn't mean that if the battery occurs and one party of the conflict leaves the other to go to their respective home or to go elsewhere, it doesn't mean that there's not still a propensity for violence there, correct?
Correct.
And can't there be tragic results from the Sheriff's Department not taking action, any action it can to prevent further violence by placing a alleged offender into custody in a domestic violence situation?
Yes, sir.
So it is certainly possible that if DeHutt had not been taken into custody, that he could have again battered Ms. Caps.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you felt like you did the right thing at the end of the day.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, that's all the questions I have.
You done? Just want to clarify your testimony today that you thought they still lived together based on what he told you. And even though you may have read this report, you obviously didn't pick up on the fact that it said previously resided together. Isn't that true?
Yes, ma'am.
One more question. Sir, do you think it makes any sense at all for Deputy Deane to tell you, and I'm not objecting to this notion that he told you that they lived together in that conversation. I wasn't part of that conversation. I'm not questioning your integrity, but does it make any sense to you for Deputy Deane to tell you in a telephone conversation they live together, and then write a report an hour later that says they don't and present it to you? Does that make any sense?
No.
Okay, no questions.
You can leave. We do appreciate you staying here all day.
No, I really appreciate it. All right. Thank you so much. I just hope you get an hour or two. You're not going to get to sleep, are you?
No, I'm just going home.
Okay.
Thank you for appearing.
Yes, ma'am.
We're going to call Robert Williams. I'll thank you.
You want me to close?
If you can call Robert Williams.
Okay.
Thank you. Have you been sworn, sir?
No, sir.
Okay. Can you have a seat?
Raise your right hand. You solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give in this case is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Sir, can you please state your name for the record?
Robert Williams.
And were you present for a post-Halloween party at Travis Deane's house on November 5th, 2011?
Yes.
Can you tell me approximately what time you got there, sir?
I don't know the specific time. I know it was sometime after 9:30, but before, say 10:30, 11, somewhere in that time frame. It's been a while, so.
You remember, do you know the two girls that we're here to discuss today, Lindsay Haynes and Kelly Capps?
I've never seen them before that night.
Okay, so you did see them that night. Now, based upon your recollection, did you get there before then? Okay. Now, at any point during that evening, did you see Mr. Deane hand either of these two girls, 118, 117, any alcohol at all? Okay. Now, did you see either of these girls drinking alcohol that night?
I don't think so, not in my general area.
All right, now let's discuss this game of beer pong that was allegedly being played on the top of then Deputy Deane's patrol car. Did you see that game being played?
Yes.
Okay. How long did the game last, would you say?
I would say less than 10 minutes. I mean,
And, go ahead.
at most 15.
All right. And did you see Mr. Deane participate in this game?
No, sir.
Did you ever hear Mr. Deane get permission for beer pong to be played on his patrol car?
No.
Do you have any facts that would suggest Mr. Deane observed the beer pong being played on his patrol car at the time it was occurring?
No.
Okay. Do you know where Mr. Deane was at the time the beer pong was being played?
I believe he was in his master bedroom.
And he was in there with the door closed?
Yes.
And how do you know this?
I went in, when I first arrived, I briefly saw him, and then later on in the night, I went to use the restroom, and someone mentioned he's in his room.
And that was the time that the beer pong was being played while Mr.
Objection leading.
Sir, at the time that Mr. Deane was in his bedroom, was the beer pong game being played?
Yes.
Okay. Was it being played any other time but the time Mr. Deane was in his bedroom?
That's the only time I noticed it being played.
Very well. That's all the questions I have for you. Mr. Jones might have some.
Dr. Smith, I'm Nancy Jones, I'm representing the county in this case. How long have you known Mr. Deane?
I've known him since our freshman year in high school, or it might have been his sophomore year, my freshman year, or vice versa.
Long, long time.
Yeah, I mean, we're friends in school, casual friends more than anything.
Okay, but you attended a party at his house, so clearly you're close enough friends to go to a party at his house, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And isn't it true that you spent most of the time in the garage that evening of the party?
That is true.
So you were not in a position to be in the kitchen, for example, when the minors were drinking Jello shots with Mr. Deane, isn't that true?
I can't answer that question because I was.
You didn't see it happen,
Nope.
but it's possible it could have happened and you didn't see it, correct?
I can't speculate what happened out of my eyesight.
It's possible it could have happened, isn't it?
Objection asked and answered.
Really?
Really?
Rich.
Who's making mean-spirited comments now, Ms. Jones?
So you didn't see when the group was in the kitchen, a large group was in the kitchen having Jello shots? You weren't there?
No.
Okay, so you don't know whether or not. Mr. Deane was there when the girls had jello shots, do you?
No, I don't know
Okay.
where those girls were,
Yeah, that's what I
other
said.
than when they walked in the house.
You don't know. And when, did you ever see Mr. Deane in the garage getting anything out of the cake while you were there?
No, ma'am.
Never did.
No.
Okay. But it's possible that he was in the garage at some point and you just didn't see it, correct?
I don't know if that's possible. I know that when I was in the garage, she was not there.
Okay. But you didn't stay next to him the entire evening, did you?
No.
Did you follow him around?
No.
Okay. So you don't know, do you, whether or not he gave beer to anyone at the party, let alone the minors, correct?
Right, I don't know who distributed it. I don't.
Do you remember testifying in the criminal trial of Mr. Deane?
Briefly, it's been a while.
Okay, and you were asked, and I apologize, I don't have extra copies of these, is it possible that Travis was with the girls in the garage and you just didn't see it either while you were in the bathroom or you didn't notice? You remember being asked that question by the state attorney?
I believe so, yes.
And your answer was, could have been, I don't know.
This is improper impeachment. What has not been shown a copy of the document?
I have to show them, I apologize, I don't have extra copies. This is you, correct? Mr. Williams, Robert Williams?
Yes.
And question at the bottom of this page, is it possible that Travis was with the girls in the garage and you just didn't see it? And that's the answer you gave, are you disputing that's what you said?
I can't dispute that. I mean, could have been the 3 minutes I was in the restroom, but
Okay.
this,
But it's possible.
maybe.
That's all I have.
Sir, how, stating as a percentage, how sure are you that Mr. Deane was not in the garage that evening?
I would say 98%.
And how certain are you that he did not observe the beer pong being played on his patrol car?
I know that for a fact. I can't dispute that because I was there the entire time that was being played, and I remember witnessing it, and he was nowhere to be in the general area.
All right, no questions. Thank you.
And that's brief follow-up.
Did you ever see this picture before?
Never.
When you were at Mr. Deane's house, is that what it looked like when the beer pong was being played on the patrol car?
Yeah, it's a similar car, similar situation, yeah.
Did you, is that what you saw? Did you see those types of cups on a Volusia County Sheriff's Office car?